This past weekend wasn't as crazy as the previous weekend, but the Pac-12 still managed to screw a lot of things up. But there are still 9 teams who are still alive in the playoff hunt, and today we're going to be taking a look at how they can still reach the college football playoff. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm posting college football videos every day, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. We'll kick off this video with Georgia, who's number 1 and 10-0 on the season. They're going to close the regular season out with Kentucky and Georgia Tech, both games they should win. If the Bulldogs finish the season 12-0, they'll be in the playoff regardless of what happens in their matchup against LSU. So for the Bulldogs, just win out these final 2 games and you're in. Ohio State is 10-0 and ranked number 2 in the country. Their next game is at Maryland, a game in which they should win, and then at home against number 3 Michigan. With Ohio State, I think if they're able to beat Michigan, regardless of what happens in the Big Ten title game. Now, the Big Ten West is actually still up in the air, as there's a number of teams that still have a shot of playing in the title game. Unfortunately for Ohio State, it's not going to be a ranked opponent, so if they were to lose to whoever they play in that game, it might hurt their chances just a bit. But I think with the win against Michigan will be enough for their resume to get them in regardless of the outcome of the Big Ten title game. Michigan is also 10-0 and they're 1 spot behind Ohio State at number 3. They play Illinois at home this weekend and then go on the road to face Ohio State next weekend. Just like with what I said with Ohio State, I think the Wolverines would be in the college football playoff regardless of what happens in the Big Ten title game, assuming they're able to beat Ohio State next weekend. One of Michigan and Ohio State is going to be in the college football playoff. It's just a matter of who wins that matchup next weekend. Unless, of course, this upcoming weekend, one of these 2 teams is upset. TCU is the 4th and final team that is 10-0 on the season, and they're ranked number 4 in the country. They wrap up their season with a game at Baylor and at home against Iowa State. At this point, they've already locked up a spot in the Big 12 title game, so it's just a matter of who they be playing. Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, and Texas all still have a shot of being that final team that makes it to the title game. For the Horned Frogs, I don't think they can afford a loss like the previous 3 teams I mentioned. I think if TCU wants to be in the college football playoff, they're going to have to win their final 2 games and defeat whoever they play in the Big 12 title game. Maybe there's a lot of chaos that happens in the final weeks and TCU is still able to make it in with 1 loss, but based on how things have gone, I think they got to go undefeated. Tennessee is up next at number 5 as they're 9-1 on the season. This is when things get really interesting and it's tough trying to figure out different scenarios that get Tennessee in. They finished the season with South Carolina and Vanderbilt, 2 games they're likely going to win to finish the season 11-1. But the fact that Tennessee isn't going to get to play in the SEC title game is going to hurt them. Like I mentioned, you have Georgia that's a guaranteed lock, and you have one of Ohio State or Michigan that's likely going to be a lock as well. Then you have TCU that if they finish the season undefeated, they're going to be in, opening up 1 final spot for the playoff. Now, if that's the case, you're going to have to choose between Tennessee, potentially an LSU team that knocks off Georgia in the SEC title game, potentially a USC team that wins out and wins the Pac-12, or a potential 1-loss Clemson or North Carolina team that wins the ACC. You could probably also make the case for Ohio State or Michigan depending on who loses that game and if it's a close matchup. Because let's say Ohio State or Michigan lose to each other by only 3 points or so, you can make the case that they might get the edge over Tennessee. When looking at the resume for Tennessee this season, it's very impressive as they have wins over LSU and Alabama. But not playing in the SEC title game might end up hurting them. Unlike the other teams, they don't control their own destiny. They just gotta win out, but hope for a good amount of chaos to give them a shot of being the 4th and final team. LSU is a controversial pick, even though they're ranked number 6 in the country. They're 8-2 on the season, and as you know, we've never had a 2-loss team in the college football playoff. But I think there's always room for a first. If LSU wins out, which they should considering they play UAB and Texas A&M, they'll be playing number 1 Georgia in the SEC title game with 2 losses. If they're able to knock off the Bulldogs and hand Georgia their first loss of the season, I think the Tigers are more than deserving of one of those 4 playoff spots. This is an LSU team that is coming off a win against a number 7 Ole Miss team and a number 6 Alabama team. Then if you add a win against number 1 Georgia, that's arguably the best resume in all of college football over the past month of the season. Sure, they lost to Tennessee by 27 points, but we're just going to wipe that one out of the equation, because the whole point of the college football playoff is to have the 4 best teams. And regardless of having 2 losses, if LSU is able to knock off Georgia, I really think that they have the case to be one of the 4 best teams in all of college football. Again, I know a lot of people don't agree and it's a controversial opinion, but I do think that if they win out, they are deserving of being the first 2-loss team to reach the college football playoff. USC is now the highest ranked team in the Pac-12 as they're ranked 7th and are 9-1 on the season. Their chances of reaching the playoff took a hit this past weekend as both UCLA and Oregon lost. USC can still pick up an impressive road victory this weekend against UCLA, who is now ranked 16th. But it would have been a much better win had the Bruins had only 1 loss and were a borderline top 10 team. USC still plays number 18 Notre Dame next weekend, and that could be a very impressive win to add to their resume. But their best chance of picking up a quality win would have come in the Pac-12 title game, as they were set to face Oregon, who looked like they'd be ranked potentially 5th or 6th in that contest. Oregon lost, and they're now ranked outside the top 10, and although still an impressive victory, it's not as impressive as it would have been had they been ranked 5th. But USC can still close their season with 3 top 20 victories, which is certainly going to help considering they don't have a single ranked win this year. But for the Trojans, even if they're able to win out, I still think they're going to have a tough time leaping over some of these other teams I mentioned. Like I talked about, maybe the loser of Ohio State-Michigan gets the slight edge over the Trojans. Or maybe it's Tennessee. If USC closes the season winning these 3 games, I think they're deserving of a playoff spot. They'd be 12-1, they'd be a conference champion, they'd be coming off 3 consecutive top 20 victories, and their lone loss of the season would be to a pretty good Utah team in which they lost by only 1 point on the road. Still, I don't think the Trojans control their own destiny, and I think they're going to need a little help. Clemson is ranked number 9 as they're 9-1 on the season. They closed their year against Miami and South Carolina, 2 games they likely should win. Then in the ACC title game, they're going to face number 13 North Carolina. Now, winning the ACC against a solid North Carolina team would be a great finish to the season for Clemson, but I think they're also going to need a lot of help in front of them. They're going to need USC to either lose to UCLA or lose in the Pac-12 title game. They're going to need LSU to lose to Georgia in the SEC title game. Then they're going to need either Ohio State or Michigan to get completely blown out by the other team. Even if all that happens, I'm not quite certain as to how good Clemson's chances are, but they'll still be a conference champion with only 1 loss on the season to a ranked opponent. Wrapping up this video is another ACC team, North Carolina. The Tar Heels are 9-1 on the season and ranked 13th in the country. Just like Clemson, their lone loss of the year came against Notre Dame. Although the Tar Heels are 9-1, they've had a lot of close victories over the last month. They beat Miami by 3, they beat Duke by 3, they beat Virginia by 3, and they beat Wake Forest by 2 points. Again, wins are wins, but North Carolina doesn't really have any impressive victories this season. They'll finish the season with Georgia Tech and number 24 NC State, and then they'll face number 9 Clemson in the ACC title game. If North Carolina is able to win out and win the ACC, again, I still think they have an outside shot of reaching the playoff, but they're going to need a lot more to go in their favor than Clemson will. Again, the Tar Heels still have an outside shot, but they're going to need the most help out of any teams that are still alive in the playoff hunt. So those are the 9 teams that I think still have a chance of potentially reaching the college football playoff. Which teams do you think have the easiest road, and which teams do you think have the most difficult road? Also, as of right now, who's your prediction on which 4 teams are going to crack the college football playoff? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section down below. Before you leave, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm posting videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe if you call yourself a college football fan. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that confusing YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.